right, my friends, so today we are going to be working through chapter 8, which is analyzing and interpreting qualitative data. These are our learning objectives. You can feel free to take a look at them later on, but this is what it is. Do you guys see, you guys don't have the slides posted, huh? Do you see the slides on your Canvas? Yes, no, maybe? All right. I'm going to continue. So what are the 6 steps in analyzing and interpreting qualitative data? Well, the first thing that we're going to look at is the process typically provides this roadmap for researchers to systematically break down, characterize, and implement or interpret data that is available. And so the idea here is that you want to draw this meaningful insight from the data that is being gathered. So the first step that you can see is preparing and organizing the data for analysis. And that, my friends, it means that we are looking at transcripts or transcribing interviews. We're looking at scanning through documents. We're looking at organizing notes and looking at field recordings as well. So what you want to do in this phase is that you want to ensure that all the data is collected and it is arranged properly for future review as well, and also in a way that is understandable for others who are working with you in that team. The second step that we have is exploring the data through coding. Now, here we're talking about a detailed process where researchers go through the data line by line and identify reoccurring ideas, because it's not as easy to code it as it would be for quantitative research, where you just have a question and you kind of have statistics associated with it, and it's very kind of in the box type of thing. For here, for this time, we are just looking at going through it line by line and looking for things that are reoccurring, themes that are reoccurring, patterns that you see constantly. So with that coding, it's really just helps transform this raw data that you have as a whole. And as you're transforming that raw data, it becomes categorized and put into boxes. And now these boxes then become the way in which you analyze for a deeper understanding and a deeper meaning afterwards. And so that's coding. It can be a little tedious, but at the end of the day, that's what will make your research stand out. You could also do it manually, but you can also use other software as well that we will, which we will go over in another session. So once codes have been identified, the next step you want to do is you want to use codes to develop descriptions and themes. And again, these are looking at the broader things that are reoccurring, and this would become like the title for the categories that, or the boxes in which you are playing or you are placing that set of data. Next up, we have representing the findings through narratives and visuals. And so here what you're doing is you're communicating the findings, usually done through storytelling, through stories, and through visuals like charts, like graphs, and so forth, to make the data more understandable. Then we have making an interpretation of the meaning and the finding, and this is where you as a researcher want to find what the data actually means in the context of the research, because there's a ton of data that you have, right? You're in the field, you're collecting so many things, you're exposed to so many things that are around you, but you are looking for a particular set of data within a particular context. So this is what you are going to translate and you're going to interpret within the scope of that context. And then the last step is using strategies to validate the accuracy of the finding, which is things like member checking, triangulation, or peer debriefing as essentials to ensure the research is credible, reliable, and accurately represents the participant's perspective. So kind of like handing it off to someone else to make sure that this is found and it's not it's not like this biased opinion that you're finding for yourself. Questions? This is a visual of how the process works. So you kind of see it here. You also can see it here. You collect the data. You then transcribe the field notes. You read through the data. You find themes. You locate them. You segment them. You code them. And then the code the text for a description to be used in the research report. That is the process in a visual way. Okay. All right, so probably the most time-consuming thing that you can have in this process is transcribing the data. And so within qualitative research, it is actually essential to do this because the transcription is the process of converting that audio recording or field note into text. Now, one of the cooler things that you can find nowadays is that with AI, things become a lot easier. So if you upload that link on YouTube, this is what I would do currently using whatever technology is available. If I turn it into a link, I upload it on YouTube, I upload it privately, I take that link, I put it into a YouTube transcriber, and it'll give me the text, which sounds pretty good, right? That's how I would solve that problem instead of sitting there manually writing it. Obviously, there are other softwares that you can use that would help you do that. So there are ways around it. So it's getting easier in a sense, right? And so typically it takes approximately 4 hours to transcribe a 1 hour of audio. And software options can speed up the process. They may require manual corrections for accuracy, but typically it works. Okay? It's a lot easier to sit there and edit something than it is to transcribe the entire audio. At least if you're listening to it for an hour and you find a mistake, you can correct it. We missed a slide. So organizing the data is also a very essential step. This one goes before the transcription. And so the first step in organizing the data would be to develop a matrix or a table of sources that can be used to organize the material, which essentially helps organize data based on where it was collected, who provided the data, or any other kind of identifiers. So this then you could also do another way to organize the data would be by material type. So you can organize all the interviews together, all the documents together, all the audio recordings together, depending on the type of data that was collected. You always want to keep duplicate copies of material just in case, and hopefully in 2 different locations and so forth. I'm missing one. I'm missing something. One second. All right, we'll go with it anyways. All right, so during the data collection point, you have to have a high quality audio recording by conducting interviews in a quiet setting. So if you are collecting the data, when you are collecting the data, and you are trying to collect an audio or video, it should be in a place that is not very noisy so that the sound is contained and the quality of the audio is crisp and clear. You can use high quality recording devices, things like microphones that will help make this process easier. You can create a digital recording for storing it on your computer, which is typically what we do nowadays anyways. You can take backup notes during the interview in the event that the recording device is not working. And so just in case it doesn't work, just in case something happens to your microphone, you have an extra, and then bring to the interview extra batteries or chargers for the recording device. I can tell you from experience from journalism that sometimes things happen and you sit there and you're in the field and you're doing your interviews and your microphones stop working. Okay, and that's not cool. You also have to have the person re-say everything that they said earlier, and it kind of makes it not as organic and not as fun either. And so that's something that to keep track of always when you are doing interviews. Make sure you have some kind of a backup or a backup contingency plan. If this fails, this is what we'll do. We'll swap out the microphones, we'll record somewhere else, it automatically goes, whatever it is. All right, so during the transcription, you can create a word processing file from the recorded audio. You want it within that, I know there are things that when you're doing it through software, it gives you like timestamps, and I'll show you an example actually. Sure. Where is this? I think it's this one. So let's take this link, for example, and you can have if you take this link, you put it through a generator. Oh, no, I wanted it to generate the summary. Sorry. Okay, so we took this video, which we found on my channel. Hopefully it does this. Copy transcript, where is this? Why isn't this transcript showing up? Oh, hold on, fine. Let me find a video that actually. So that's good. Say you're going through this video, you can go. I'll give you the transcript that's right there, and it usually timestamps it for you. So everything that happens within this video is actually right here for you, okay? So as you're going through this, you don't want to leave the file just that. You actually want to have things in the file that makes it a little bit better, right? So as you're doing this, you want to create a place where you have the interviewer's name, name of the person you interviewed, the place in which you did the interview, the date that you had this done, as well any pivotal information that you actually might need. So you don't just want to copy and paste the recordings with the timestamps or whatever. You want to copy and paste the recording, plus add things that actually make it easier for you to go through and easier for you to identify. Because you have to remember that when you're doing data collection, you're not just looking at one file, you're looking at a bunch of them, right? And you're doing this over time, so things take time. Other things that you want to look at is you want to create a file with ample margins. So you don't just want like a 1-inch margin, you want something that's maybe a little bit bigger. So maybe takes up half of the page of margins, because you want to be able to go in and add notes, whether online, whether like on the computer digitally or by hand. You want to be able to go back and you want to analyze the questions as well. Double space your text is probably a good idea as well, because it gives you space to highlight, to underline, to add things as well. I feel like these are things kind of elementary things, things that we can do normally because you've done a lot of notes and you've gotten this far in college. And so I feel like people relatively know this stuff. You could either do the analysis by hand or by computer. Same thing as you would with your original notes, right? Same thing when you're doing, when you're reading a book, when you are studying for a class. You can either write on the book or you can do it digitally. And with digitally for us, for our sake, there are softwares that that you can use that will help you do that. And I believe in the upcoming weeks, sometime in the next couple of weeks, I have a software for us to try. Okay? Again, probably the easiest thing for you to do is use a software. You can do it by hand, but you can use a software. All right, so there are softwares like In Vivo or Atlas, which are these. This would be like one of the softwares. In Vivo is one of the softwares that you can use to analyze data. Okay, so you can kind of see in this software, you're able to highlight, you're able to link things together, you're able to adjust things more than it would be a normal Word document. Okay, it looks like a Word document, but it's actually a little bit more specialized in your ability to code and organize and the ability to import data and how you want to import it and so forth. So there's actually a lot of things that can help you do that as well. And as you do your project, feel free to use one of the software. There's a few that have like these free trials that they give out or codes that they have. And I really think I have to check which week I have it, but I have one for us to try as well. Okay, so you can kind of see how it looks like, how the workspace is, and how everything becomes extremely organized for you, which makes it a lot easier for you to find. Yeah? So I think everybody here is fairly familiar with what I'm saying or can navigate it. Let me know if you can't, like, let me know if you have questions or if I'm wrong about this, like about people's knowledge. I just assume everybody here knows how to use technology pretty well. All right. Again, kind of like what we saw earlier in the image that we just, the example that we just saw, you can organize your files, you can select the program, import the file into the software that you want to do or want to use, mark sentences that pertain to whatever it is that you are researching. So as you're going through that data, you can highlight the things that are important, you can color code it, you can whatever the case is, code the block text, and whatever that block of text that you decided that this is important, give it a code. And if it's repeated, then, you know, use the same color and so forth. And search the text for matching each code and collapse codes into broader themes. So that's kind of all of it at one time. Really, you could just see this again. Try to find a good example for us. So you can kind of see it here. You can look at the things that are highlighted, and that would be certain things. You see the pink, the blue, the yellow, and so forth. I can't read it either if it makes anybody happier, but that's a good example of what we're talking about. All right. These are some of the softwares that you can use that really are helpful for you to be able to code your information. You can feel free to check them out. Let me double check which one. We're doing that Max QDA. That's the one that we have license for. Well, not license. We have a trial thing for it, and that would be in a couple of weeks. All right, so one of the first things that you want to do before exploring the code is obtaining a general sense of the data through primary exploratory analysis. And so this is initial stage that really just allows you as a researcher to develop almost this broad idea or broad understanding of the material before you break it down into codes, and it becomes something that you have to familiarize yourself almost a few times with it. That way, when you start coding, it's not all over the place and it's more concise, okay? So you want to write memos in, once you have reviewed that, you can write memos in the margins or mark notes that capture your initial reflection, because the first time you go through this data, there's a lot of it there, okay? And you're formulating ideas, you're raising questions, you are coming back to things. If you are the person that did the interview, then you're coming back to it. And you're coming back to it to see, okay, well, this is what I did 5 months ago when this is what I was thinking, yeah? And so you have to come back to this thing. So you write these things down in the memos or in the margin. All right, so once you've developed a general sense of the data and you really feel like you're comfortable with the data set that you have, the next step is to begin coding. And so coding involves assigning labels or tags to a specific segment of the text based on their relevance to your research and to your research questions and to the themes that keep showing up. This process starts with reading through all the transcriptions and identifying the text segments as you guys can see. So things like you're answering questions like, what is this person saying? And really here your aim is to understand what they are saying and why they are saying what they're saying. And are there group similar ideas, okay? Are there similar ideas that are showing up that people are responding in the same way to? And how do I group them together? Does that make sense? So essentially coding breaks down big data sets into manageable units that can then be further analyzed as they are themselves. Another thing that you want to do is you want to reduce redundancy by eliminating duplicate or overlapping code. So you don't want this array of codes that is happening. You just want specific. So instead of having 5 similar things, you consolidate it into one, and it makes it easier for you to manage it. So again, once you have reduced that redundancy, you can go back to the data to look for new codes that were previously missed because there were so many codes that already existed. And so this step ensures that the analysis is thorough and all significant insights have been matched. All right, at the end of the day, you want to collapse it into 5 to 7 themes. You don't want to be overwhelmed with the themes, so you want to collapse it into 5 to 7 themes. And themes are similar codes aggregated together to form a major idea in your database. Essentially, it's coming together as one. And there is an importance of focusing on themes that have a strong evidence backing them. So ensuring that they are relevant to your research questions. So this is a visual of what we talked about. You're reading through the data, you're dividing into segments, you're labeling these segments with codes, then you start to find the overlapping codes, and then you begin to reduce it and consolidate. And you can kind of see, you begin with a lot of pages, you begin with a lot of text, then you break it down to 40 to 60 codes as you're going, right? Because this is the ideation process. This is the process where you're sitting with your data and you're really trying to understand what is actually happening. And you then reduce those to 20 to 30, and that's where you find the overlapping redundancies, go back and figure out if there's something that is missed. And finally, you go back to the code and reduce them to about 5 or 7, and that's essentially where you are. All right, so that's it for this particular video, this particular lecture. For those of you who are watching online later on, we'll see you in the next video.